Mr. Speaker, yesterday we saw an extraordinary, jaw-dropping increase in the provincial deficit to $646 million in the core fiscal update and $773 million in the summary fiscal update. Wow. This NDP government has no inclination whatsoever to balance their spending with their revenue. Moreover, the fiscal statement has so little detail in it that we have no specific expenditure projections for many departments, let alone major categories within departments. I ask the Premier, why is he hiding spending projections in arts, in culture, in the environment, in agriculture, science and innovation? Will the Premier today table the needed budget to give these details for Manitobans?
Speaker, we were happy to put the fiscal outlook on the table yesterday. Mr. Speaker, in spite of the obstructionist plan of the members of the opposition who didn't want to deal with it, we put out a good, strong vision following up on the throne speech, keeping the Manitoba economy among the strongest in the country, Mr. Speaker, an emphasis on infrastructure to create good jobs at a time when the Canadian and global economy is slowing down, adding the first major installment on daycare spaces of 2,000, Mr. Speaker, providing record funding to our public schools, including smaller class sizes, more teachers in classrooms in K-3, including more opportunities for people in high school for trades, college and university education, Mr. Speaker. We've asked the opposition to put their plan for $500 million of cuts forward. I asked the member from River Heights, how will he support health and education when he's planning to reduce the health and education levy by $471 million. That's $2 billion over the next 4 years. How will he support health and education with a major reduction in the health and education levy of $471 million?
Mr. Speaker, the fiscal update revealed an unbelievable increase of $2.34 billion in new debt.
Wow.
Aside from the $700 million deficit revealed in this non-budget, there is still $1.6 billion in debt which is unaccounted for. The fiscal update gives no clue as to the reason for this $1.6 billion additional increase in debt. Will the Premier today table information about his fiscal scheme to run a very large deficit and also borrow an additional $1.6 billion? Where has this $1.6 billion gone?
In the fiscal outlook is the 5-year plan on infrastructure, $1.1 billion, Mr. Speaker. In this fiscal update is more money for hospitals and healthcare facilities. There's more money for social housing. There's more money for public schools and colleges and universities, Mr. Speaker. It's all laid out in there. We have not seen how the leader or how the member from River Heights will support any of those initiatives when he's planning to wipe out, and this is the promise they've made, they will eliminate the health and education levy. That will be a tax reduction for the big banks and the major corporations. They're going to hand away $2 billion to do that in corporate giveaways, and then they say they're going to support essential public services in Manitoba. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. It's foolishness, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, the NDP's exercise in covering up has no limits. Today, there are so many outstanding labor contracts which remain unsigned because this government has failed to deal in a timely and fair manner with workers in our province. If the costs of these yet-to-be-completed contracts, some dating back over 2 years, have not been included in the fiscal update, then we're looking at tens or $100 millions of dollars more in costs to come. Will the Premier table the expected costs of concluding these outstanding labor agreements and tell us whether these costs are included or are not included in the fiscal update projections which were provided yesterday?
Unlike the opposition Conservative Party that would slash and burn public sector jobs with their $500 million in proposed cuts, unlike the Liberals who plan to get rid of $471 million to support health and education, which means jobs will be eliminated in Manitoba, we have negotiated collective agreements We've negotiated moderate prices on that, usually 2%. Usually 2% or less a year, Mr. Speaker. We provided some job security. We've got agreements with just about all the organizations we work with, our partners in delivering public services, partners whom we value and believe provide good quality services to Manitoba, and we will work with them to find further ways to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of our public services. So our collective bargaining is done in the spirit of how can we all work together to serve the people of Manitoba. And I can tell you, unlike the opposition who don't like public servants, nurses, doctors, and teachers, and the Liberals who seem to have turned on them with their $471 million in cuts, we believe in partnering with our public services to provide stable, high-quality public services at a reasonable price, and that's what we're doing.